So when Twitter first came out, people assumed that it would only be used for the trivial. And yet, a year ago, I was watching CNN International covering the Egyptian revolution, and they're live streaming tweets from Egyptian revolutionaries on the streets of Cairo, giving live reports about what is happening minute by minute. And the CNN anchors are doing nothing. They're pointing at the screen, showing the tweet. Look, oh, we have another tweet. And here's another tweet from someone we don't know. And here's another tweet. They've been reduced to the role of a TV show model going, and this wonderful refrigerator will be yours if you win the prize behind door number 1. Which, you know, I find extremely gratifying to watch one of these talking heads like Anderson Cooper basically reduced to reading tweets off a screen. Because they mocked it. Because they made the mistaken assumption that if the cost of production is 0, then the value of the message is 0. They confused the medium for the message. They made the mistaken assumption that their control over the medium was the source of quality. And long after quality disappeared, they clung to control and thought that control was the only way to achieve quality. And if you remove control, you remove quality. And that is stinky, unabashed elitism at its absolute worst. It assumes that the gatekeepers are the source of quality. And all they are is gatekeepers. They assume that the fact that they have the expensive medium means that the message is worth listening to. And the moment you tear that message away from the medium and you open it up to an entire range of expression, yes, it will express the most trivial messages of your culture, including SMH. But it will also express the most interesting messages of your culture eventually. Today, in US schools, children read the Federalist Papers, which are letters of correspondence exchanged between Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and many of the other founding fathers. In 100 years, people will be reading the Federalist tweets of the Cairo Revolution. That's not an insane idea. That is the path of human civilization. We've seen this happen again and again. So now they mock Twitter as trivial because they don't understand the distinction between message and medium. But TV was once mocked as a trivial pastime because it obscured the art of cinematography. And cinematography was a trivial pastime because it cheapened and vulgarized the art of the theater. And the theater was a vulgar and cheap pastime of Victorians because it trivialized the great dramatic plays of the Romans and the ancient Greeks. And you keep going down this path and you eventually arrive at Aristotle saying that philosophy is dead because nowadays the kids all want to watch dramatic presentations instead of reading their philosophy books. He probably complained about their long hair too. Every generation mistakes the medium for value and considers the next iteration of the medium that widens access, that opens availability, that broadens the range of expression. They consider that medium trivial, vulgar, cheapening the message. But what they don't understand is when you cheapen the medium, you release the message and you elevate it. And you are able to now express a broad range of messages. And yes, the first ones will be trivial. And the reason they'll be trivial is because the previous medium didn't allow that expression. It didn't have within it the ability to have that expression. So yes, you will have the SMH. But you'll also have live tweets from the Cairo Revolution. And by the time they figure that out, the new medium is the quality message. And we can turn around and call the next one vulgar and cheap. Money is a content type, and we just wrenched it free from the medium. And the medium has been a series of interconnected networks that segregate money by size and recipient. We have payment networks for small money. We have payment networks for large money. We have payment networks for fast money. We have payment networks for slow money. Payment networks for businesses to pay businesses. Payment networks for governments to pay governments. Payment networks for consumers to pay businesses. And payment networks for consumers to pay consumers. Oh wait, we don't have those. We don't have payment networks for consumers to pay consumers. We don't have payment networks to do small payments, because the medium does not allow that range of expression. Because I cannot send you 20 cents across the world from one individual to another individual, because the medium constrains the message, because the cost of production does not allow me to express that range of transactional expression. But now we have separated the message from the medium. We have created money as a content type. And that money is now able, at zero cost, with zero production cost, to express the entire range of transactional expression, from the tiny to the enormous, from the consumer to consumer to the government for government. What happens next? The gatekeepers tell you that this network is not serious. The gatekeepers confuse their payment network cost for the value of their service. The gatekeepers of the old payment networks will tell you that this new form of payment is vulgar and cheap, and it is something that is only used for trivialities. And all of the very, very serious people will remain on the solid, quality payment networks of the past. Because if they can control and restrict the range of expression, they think that means it's quality. And it's not. It's just an inflated cost of production. It's bare, naked elitism at its worst. They clung to the they cling to the medium and fail to see that now the message can be transported over any medium at zero cost, instantaneously. So what is the first use of this new model? What is the first use of this new messaging medium? Now we can send trivial payments. I get tips on Twitter. Great. I mean, that's a demonstration I can make which clearly shows people the difference. I can do something I could not do before. But to most people, that's trivial. To most people, the fact that I'm showing them the bottom of the range of expression simply reinforces the idea that this is a cheap and vulgar medium. Because what they fail to grasp is that this medium is not just for the trivial. It spans the entire range of transactional expression from the trivial to the enormous. So one day, a country will pay its oil bill on the blockchain. One day, you might buy a multinational company on the blockchain. One day, you might sell an aircraft carrier, hopefully for scrap metal, on the blockchain. Because the blockchain can encompass the entire range, from the 10-cent tweet to the $100 billion debt settlement. We just haven't noticed yet. And it can do so without any constraint imposed by the underlying medium. This isn't just a matter of the fact that the transaction as a content type can be transported over Skype smileys. That's simply a symptom of the fact that we have released all of the constraints of the underlying transport medium. We have made content king. What happens is that when content starts off as the domain only of exclusivity and elitism and limited access, it is used by grandmasters to create masterpieces. The Gutenberg Bible, the first photographs, the landing on the moon, televised for the first time, the great movies of the past, masterpieces made by grandmasters. And then the medium changes because the technology becomes more available. And people start using it for a broader range of expression. But the gatekeepers cling to the old ideas, so they still try to do the grandiose with their medium. They print hardback, heavy-covered, leather-bound books. Principia Mathematica. And then the medium opens up again, and things become softcover, and photographs become available to the everyday person in 24 exposures. And the gatekeepers of the past still cling to the past, but now they can't really pretend it's grandiose, so they just do grandstanding. They just say, well, there is a certain je ne sais quoi to film. There's a certain quality to vinyl that CDs will never capture. A TV anchor really has authority. Don't you remember Walter Cronkite? A newspaper is the source of authoritative opinion, and it really is worth the paper it's printed on. Now they're grandstanding. The grandiosity is gone. The quality is gone. Now it's just a matter of clinging to the control and pretending that control is still quality. And finally, in this grand arc of technology, the technology reaches the final stage. And in that final stage, the only people who still believe it's grand are grandparents. In the grand arc of technology, what started out as a masterpiece is now only consumed by those in the last stages of their lives. The first checks written out were used by royalty to fund great ventures like the East India Company to open the spice roads and trade routes to the east. And in those days, only royals had checkbooks. And today, if you go into a supermarket and the grandmother, bless her heart, in front of you in the line, opens up her purse and pulls out the checkbook, 15 people in line are going to groan audibly as they realize it's going to take 15 minutes to write out that transaction. And there's nothing left of the grandiosity of funding the East India Company when you're buying beans and toast with a checkbook in a supermarket. It's the final stage. And the only people watching Fox News now are grandparents, because we all get our news on the internet. What was once trivial is now our source of authoritative news and information. And you can't explain that to the old guard. And we read our books electronically, while some people say, well, there's something about the feel of paper. Yes, it's too heavy to carry 20 books in your bag. And I read 20 books in 4 or 5 weeks. And so I need to carry that many. There's nothing about the feel of paper. You're clinging to the past. So as we move into this world where money is a content type, the gatekeepers of the old payment systems will cling to the illusion that traditional banking is quality, that the gatekeepers are the quality, and the quality is inherent in the gatekeeping, in the control, in the censorship, in the limitations. But that's not where the quality is. And we're going to move on and open up the range of expression that's possible with money to unimaginable levels that have never happened before. And they'll still cling to their ideas of grandiosity, the great old banks with the vaulted ceilings and the chromed vaults that are empty, where you can get guided tours on Sundays to look at what banks once used to be like. And you go into cities around the world, and the great vaults of the great old banks are now bars where you can get a cocktail mixed in the vault. Because banks can't even afford to have those buildings anymore, because they serve no purpose other than grandiosity. And they'll still try to persuade you that through their control, they protect you from evil, from terrorists, from money launderers. What all they're doing is protecting their own incumbency from competition. We have now separated the message from the medium. Money is now a content type, and we're never going to go back. Thank you.